Good afternoon, guys, and happy Tuesday to all of your sunshiny faces. So guys, I got a bunch of editing done today, which is awesome, because again, tomorrow most likely will need to try and work on getting those grocery lists finished up for, you know, the other grocery stores that we have to go to. So that's kind of been my routine, and I've stuck to it really well. I didn't finish my Meijer list yesterday, so I actually finished that up kind of today. I'd already had all the coupons clipped. I just needed to actually like type it out. So while I've always tried to finish that on Monday, I didn't actually finish it yesterday. And this is the first week in like I think probably 2 weeks or so that I actually didn't finish it on Monday. So I finished it today, which again too wasn't that big of a deal. And like again too, if things come up or whatever and I don't get the chance to finish it, then I will just again too finish it the next day. But I didn't really procrastinate doing it. I finished like clipping the coupons and everything like that actually on Sunday, which I normally don't. I do it on Monday. So then I was like, I'll just type it out tomorrow, and then I didn't because I had finished it on Sunday though. But again too, it wasn't that big of a deal on when I finished it or anything like that. But it was the first like week, and like I said, probably 2 weeks now at least, where I didn't like do that. So but I did get a bunch of editing done today, so that if I don't get a chance or don't get as much time tomorrow to do it, because I have to like finish those grocery lists and everything, at least I finished, you know, like I did a lot today. And I also finished so that I had some time to actually be able to just watch some TV, because I think I was telling you guys how like I was going through and like I do this all the time. I will all of a sudden go onto like one of the you know, like streaming services or whatever, and then all of a sudden find all these new movies and TV shows that like get added that like, because I haven't been on there at all recently, you know, or something like that. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, there's this to watch and there's that to watch, and like all this kind of stuff that I didn't know was on there, because I'll like binge something on one like streaming service, or like I'll just watch like a bunch of YouTube. So I'm just like on YouTube for a while, and then I'll like be on Netflix, and then I'll be on Disney Plus, and then I'll be like on Amazon, you know, something like that. And I'll just like watch something for so long, and you know, that I don't like go and check the other ones to see like, oh, what's on that streaming service now, and you know, that kind of thing. So we have through Amazon, like we have like the HBO Max, 1 or 2 other streaming services through Amazon, like not separately though. So like whenever I think of it, I just think of it as being Amazon, but it'll be like, oh, it's, you know, like free with your HBO subscription or whatever it is. And I know I mentioned this in one of the vlogs recently, but I had a whole bunch of stuff that was like on my list kind of like things that I wanted to watch. So I watched a bunch of movies. A couple of them were movies. I think I was telling you guys too, I watched Barbie the other night, and like a lot of those ones were ones that I had seen already. I rewatched Legally Blonde. I ended up, it was like a whole chick flick thing. I ended up watching a whole bunch of movies I didn't realize were like on HBO, and some of them might have been on Amazon Prime. Like I said, I don't know. It's just all through that one, you know, like the one app, because like I said, of our subscriptions through that. So again, I was watching like a whole bunch of those movies. So I have a whole bunch of those, like, you know, like I said, that were kind of like my you know, on my want to watch list of movies that are on there. It's like so difficult too to actually sometimes find this stuff, because like my thing is that like, you know, it'll show like then suggested based on like what you watch. Obviously too, like I watched Barbie, and then it was like, oh, Legally Blonde, like, yeah, kind of, you know, I'm not gonna say the same thing, but kind of similar. You know, so again, I suggested that, and I was like, I haven't watched that in a while, I'll watch it. And too, there were a handful of movies I ended up watching. But then again too, I realized I had stuff that was on my list that I added a while ago, and then they like, you know, the other problem too is that they change streaming services so much. And I think I was telling you guys this too, is that like, you know, again, one streaming service might have the rights to be able to, you know, again, they have it on their platform for however long, and I'm assuming it's like a contract kind of thing. Like, you know, again, they have the rights to, you know, again, whatever it is, a TV show or series or a movie or whatever it is, like for example Barbie, you know, so like HBO has the right to stream Barbie on their platform, and then, you know, again, you pay for the subscription and you go to watch it on there. You know, and then again too, when that runs out, maybe it's only for like 8 months or something like that, and then maybe Netflix picks it up, and then Netflix has Barbie for like, you know, like 6 months or something like that, whatever it is. If you notice it, they do tend to bounce around a lot of different places. And I think I mentioned this with The Office, like how it was on Netflix for like forever, and then when they got Peacock got its own streaming service, like then it moved over to Peacock, and again too, they'll probably have it on their streaming service because I believe that that's like who owns it anyway. You know, like that's their you know, studio. So, you know, that like produces it or whatever. So they'll probably have it on Peacock for, you know, the foreseeable future. And so that's why, again too, like, because I remember like the week that it was leaving Netflix, like it was the #1 trending thing on Netflix because everybody wanted to watch it before it left. But if you had Peacock, you could just go and watch it on Peacock. It wasn't like, you know, like, oh, it's just on Netflix and now you can't watch it ever again kind of thing. Again too, I think we actually had Peacock already prior to that because they had a bunch of college football games and we couldn't watch them because they were only streaming on Peacock. So we were like, okay, we have to get it now. That's the thing that does upset me just a little bit, is that like there is some stuff that is locked, like especially sports tends to get locked behind like those streaming services. Like I remember there was a handful of Cubs games that I didn't get to watch because it was only on Apple, like Apple TV Plus or whatever it is, and I have an Apple TV but I don't have the subscription service, so I can't watch like, you know, the streaming service stuff on there. And so that really stunk, and I couldn't watch it on TV or on a streaming service or anything like that at all because it wasn't one of the streaming services I have. So you know, like I said, that's the part that I don't like about it. Like I can understand the TV series and the movies and like that kind of stuff, especially too because if it is something that does get produced by that company and they have the rights to it anyway, like they would have it. But again too, with like sports and things like that, I find that that's just really like you know, I don't really like that. I don't like that, again too, like they'll have stuff on certain things. I mean, it is kind of cool because like, but like, okay, for example, they did that with the Apple TV Plus, but then they also streamed it on YouTube. This was a different like game, and with YouTube it was free to watch, so anybody could watch it anywhere, and you didn't have to have a cable subscription, you didn't have to have, you know, like anything. So like I think that's the stuff that's kind of cool, but having to kind of like hide it behind like paywalls to be able to watch it if it's going to be on a separate streaming service than where it normally is. Like for example, the Cubs game normally stream on their own TV channel, which we have through cable, which is on the Marquee Network, so we can watch the games on there. They also have their own private streaming service as well. But again too, if it's like on a station where it's going to be hidden behind having to pay for it, like I don't like that. The same thing too with like, they do show some college sports on ESPN, which again too, I believe from my understanding that's free, but some like things will also be on ESPN Plus, and that you have to pay for. So, you know, like, but we also have that. So there's a lot of stuff. We have a lot of streaming services, but we do watch a lot of sports and a lot of TV, and like, yeah. So the thing is that I actually have my own ESPN account that like I have all of my sports teams that I follow saved, and I don't have ESPN Plus on it. So, but my dad, who normally watches like the UFC fights, which you have to do through the ESPN Plus, he has that. So he can stream those ones on, like, you know, again to ESPN Plus, the ones that are paid for. But for me, I can still watch a lot of the college football games and things like that free with just basic like ESPN, like you just have to have an account. And again too, I don't know though, because we do have cable and like our cable provider, we get ESPN, if that technically counts as like what it is and why we don't have to pay for like the regular ESPN. But again too, even if I'm on my phone, it does, but we do it, all of our phone stuff is also through like the same provider, so I don't know 100% if that's also the case. But anyways, it's just like, you know, I personally don't like when stuff is hidden specifically behind like a paywall like that wouldn't normally be something that you can like kind of stream if like, again, to you pay for like the main like games, if that makes sense. I know that one of the huge controversial things this year was one of the football playoff games for the NFL this year was, I think, only streaming on Peacock. And even I think local people as well also could only stream it on Peacock, and you had to have a subscription to do it. Like, you couldn't just turn on, for us, I think that's channel 5. So like you couldn't just turn that on and watch it, from my understanding. And like in general too, like you just, even if you were just an avid like sports, you know, watcher and or weren't local, you couldn't watch it if like, you know, normally like playoff games and stuff like that are like more nationally televised so that everybody can watch them, but that one was specifically hidden behind paywalls, which, like I said, I have a problem with that kind of stuff. And so again too, I don't like that some of the streaming services are getting a little too big, like, you know, like I said, like that kind of stuff where it's like, you know, things that you can't watch without having that streaming service that you otherwise would normally be able to. And like the accessibility, like my other thing too is that like I don't understand why it was just one specific game. Like, what if that was your team and maybe you didn't live in that area or something like that, or maybe you did, like, and you have to specifically pay for that game for your, you know, like for your game, and yet the other game doesn't have to be paid for a streaming service. That makes sense. That I think is really, really wrong, because like again too, if it was like the Bears and like we were playing and like we couldn't watch the game, like again too, if it was like the Bears playing Green Bay or something like that, we have to pay for our game. But if it's like the Broncos playing the Raiders, that playoff game you don't have to pay for, like that does not seem fair to me at all. Like, you know, why is it just my game, you know, my team specifically that has to? If it was going to be, it should have been like all the games across the board. But like I said, I have a problem with that, especially in that case as well. So anyways, that's to say that I actually started watching though another series. I started another series, even though I was like, I need to finish what I already started. But the only reason I am is because I did a while ago, actually, I started and finished. I watched all of the episodes of I Love Lucy. Some of them weren't available though, so that's not my fault. I watched everything all the way through, all the seasons that there were, and I watched all of that. But I kind of wanted to watch a lot of the older like TV and like sitcoms and stuff like that. So I wanted to watch Bewitched, which I haven't seen really that much. Like, I've actually watched a lot of the Brady Bunch, but I haven't like watched it recently. That's also another one I found out is like streaming also from Amazon Prime, or if it's HBO specifically, but either way, I found that on there too. But yeah, so I started watching that, and the only thing is that I feel like it's a little bit easier because the episodes are only like a half an hour long, so I can normally like kind of, even though I do tend to like binge watch TV, but like I can get through more and feel like I've gotten through watching more, instead of being like, oh my gosh, there's like 20 episodes and they're an hour each, so it's like 20 hours. You know, and like I have to watch those in probably at least a couple days, because I'm not going to finish watching 20 hours of TV in one day. But you know, like 30 minutes is like, oh well, like yeah, I could watch a couple episodes and not be like, oh, I've been sitting here all day and I've barely gotten through like a half of a season or something like that. So like I say, it makes me feel a little bit better, the fact that they're a little bit shorter and I can watch them kind of faster. But like that was the same thing too with I Love Lucy. I think that's why I finished it, was because they were actually shorter than like watching like the hour-long like TV shows and things like that I've like started and haven't finished, just because normally I'm like, oh, I don't want to sit through another hour, you know, like, or I just like feel like I'm just not getting anywhere and I'm not getting through the series quick enough because the episodes seem like they take really long. Either way though, I started watching it, and like I might kind of jump around too a little bit, because also I feel like with sitcoms, kind of, especially older ones, they're not like progressional, if that makes sense. I mean, they are, but it's not like, oh, like you have to have remembered what happened in the last episode to know what happens in the next episode. It's like they're just kind of like little one-offs about like the same thing, but you know, just like little one-offs, so it kind of makes it a little easier to like watch them, if that makes sense too. Like, you know, it'll be like the whole episode will focus on kind of like one thing, whereas, you know, the whole series in general is about a whole bunch of stuff, and like watching them in order, sure, but it's not like, oh, oh, I have to remember what was going on with this couple in the last episode of this TV show, or, you know, like what drama was going on or whatever, to like know, like to just pick back up where I was. So it's a little bit easier. Like I said, like I Love Lucy, I remember there was like a big period of time where I was like, didn't watch it. I didn't feel like I needed to remember what happened in the very last episode that I watched. I feel like it's something easier for me to finish watching instead of starting something and then being like, oh, now I can't finish it, you know, kind of thing. Either way though, I did have enough time to actually be able to watch 2 episodes of that tonight. So I'm gonna take a shower now and get to bed. I will see you guys all in tomorrow's vlog. If you guys did enjoy today's, make sure you guys give a big old thumbs up. If you guys are new, we'd love it if you'd subscribe, and I'll see y'all your sunshiny faces tomorrow. So bye guys.